Hi.
Hey. So yeah, we start in English now. Hey.
Studying English now. That was so interesting when we, last time when we finish our podcast, you hit off the recording, and then I don't know, you said something like you said a sentence in English, and then I replied, and then we talk in English, and then you reflect back to me that when I start talking English, that my aura changed, and the whole demeanor of me changed. And that was, I couldn't stop thinking about it for the whole week. I was like thinking, because as I told you before, one of therapists that I'm going to in here in Czech told me an idea that what was different back in Australia, where I spent 13 years, is that you start living in a different language that is not connected to your homeland, to the trauma, and to the language that you went through that trauma. So obviously, you basically reprogramming your body and your life in a completely different way. And after we had that chat last time, I went through some of my old videos and some of the stuff that I had through the 13 years of there, and it really made me realize that really back there I'm a different person. And what's happening in Czech, that I'm translating a lot of the knowledge that I gained throughout the 13 years, especially in the area of spirituality in the Czech. So I'm especially at the beginning, I'm having a really hard time translating all that thing,
Yeah.
the words coming to my head in English. And so it's just really interesting now that we have the opportunity to talk about that topic, which
Yeah, and it's like mirroring here. It's exactly it. I noticed that I do have trouble quite often translating between the two. Translating. I have got like this whole huge spaces or layers that are in some ways in English language, and then I have to translate them into Czech, and it's like going from one space to differently structured space. And it's not just about the language as that, because I notice I'm originally a linguist, and I have had a similar discussion with friends that live abroad in different countries, different cultures, and they say the same. I am slightly different person. I have slightly different identity because I have different experiences, and I make different shapes in my mind. I make different shapes in my energy. And as you said, yes, you are reprogrammed from what you were brought up with, and then you are in a different world. And in some ways, you can also say geographically, once you enter English speaking world, it's so much bigger space in some
mm,
ways. That's
mm,
not
mm.
belittling, any other cultural language or language group, but it is, you are moving between different spaces and different shapes. And then with the language comes culture as well, like, Australian culture. In the honor of what we are speaking about, your experiences, I have the Australian Ocean behind me, New South Wales. And it's like I'm
Swimming in
also
there
slightly
quite often.
I'm slightly different when I am in Australia. I'm slightly different when I am in Britain. There are different spaces that open up mentally, emotionally, the way I am set up, the way I behave, the way I see things. It's almost like you change angle of experiencing. And in some ways, it does this. So
Yeah.
environment and language does a lot. I mean, I think in English every day, most of the day. Then I have to switch to Czech with some clients or for Czech podcasts. But there is that, switch that takes a little bit of time. And there are certain areas, like personal development areas, I had to relearn a whole new vocabulary in Czech language because I knew it all in English.
Tell me
That was
about
the
it.
same if I if I was to work for in a Czech police force. I wouldn't have any of the terminology because I only learned it in English. So it's like whole area of experiencing and living, you know. It's just in certain cultures, certain language, and certain shapes that are different.
Well, there's several topics coming up to me. Like first of all, I remember that when I get to Australia, I remember my English was so poor that you know, maybe, 2 to 3 years took me to gain enough confidence, vocabulary, and all that to start talking in confidence. At the time I was working in
Mm.
restaurant, so at the time, waiting tables with confidence, approaching girls, that's quite a topic when you don't know the language well, but as you live through the years, you go into the year 4 or 5. I remember when I was around year maybe 6, 7. I remember that get to a point where you're passing by the tables and you can hear quiet conversation around the tables, and you can understand what people are saying, and all that. And progressively, you're learning that language, you're learning new skills, and then yeah, I started to study human design at some point, and by the time I get back here, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna, do readings, for people who are interested. But then I had a Czech line in front of me, and then I realized, ah, fuck, I need to, what's the word for this, and what's the word for this? You
Yeah.
know, confidence and consciousness, and I was like, what's the,
Yeah.
and then you realize that maybe maybe I don't have the vocabulary in Czech, but maybe there are some um, words in Czech are missing to describe exactly how you interpret it in English, for example. There you go. So when we touch base in English at the end of the last podcast that we did in Czech, it really made me realize that my initial thought, not having any discussion in podcast English, because who's gonna listen to it in Czech, uh, um, and made me realize that, hey, maybe the people who's gonna listen to it are not from Czech only, and maybe it's time to start talking to the wider audience.
Yeah, yeah. And also, those from Czech that listen to English are the ones that are stepping into the shapes of this particular, space. But you're right, the acquiring of the language is certain words I find really difficult to find equivalent of in Czech, because when we are thinking of certain areas of knowledge, of certain areas of skills, like self-development, like spirituality, like working with embodiment and so on and so forth, uh, or very specialized professions, you need the nuances just right. Because let's face it, actually, magic, language is magic. It is spells and it's curses. It is what builds up the shapes in your mind and therefore the shapes in your energy, and therefore the shapes of your body. Um, So there are certain specific words that I cannot find equivalent of in Czech because they don't have the same flavor, they don't have the same energy charge.
Yes,
But vice versa, there are specific words in Czech that I just cannot
yes,
find in any
yes,
other language.
yes, yes.
But because I use English all the time for the past, I don't know, 35 years, day in, day out, I don't dream in English. It's much harder for me between from English into Czech. But yeah, if you are doing like personal development, if you're doing spirituality, if you're doing embodiment, then there are specific words that's like I really do find empowerment, power. And in Czech there is no equivalent to me, because when I say power, it has got specific meaning, specific flavor and charge. When you say in Czech síla, it's not the same. It's not. It's just
Mm.
there's something exactly missing. That's not dissing Czech language. It's just like this is how it is. So it's like kind of linguistic sorcery in some way.
Well, what also made me realize by coming back to Czech after such a long time that for a while my mind was a little bit confused, that, you know, at the beginning I'm still thinking in English, but now talking in Czech. Now it made me realize that I forgot quite a few Czech words, not to mention, correct writing and spelling. I make tons of mistakes. Well, I was making tons of mistakes before, but after such a long time not writing the language properly, it's even worse. And now, after being here nearly 2 years, I can tell in my English that I'm losing it a little bit. What's going on? As
Mhm,
you're not practicing it, as you're not using that language on a daily basis.
yeah.
But yet, I feel there's so much knowledge that I gain in English that I cannot translate properly into Czech, and so that makes sense to start using the English in sharing the knowledge, and just maybe push a little bit a local environment and say like, hey, like this is where we're going. This is one universal language that we have. How about we start learning? Because the future is that will be at least one language that we can communicate, all of us. I guess that's English, and
Lingua franca. It used to be Latin in the medieval times. It's English right now. It might be Chinese sometime in the future, who knows? But yeah, English. I agree with you. Again, I know that there are the two different kind of teams. One is like, don't let's keep our language pure, and English is contaminating everything. In some ways, yeah, maybe for someone, but I'm not purist. I like fusion. And if
Same.
if you can enrich something, if you can enter into space that gives you more knowledge and more resources, why not? I think with every language you can gain so much, whichever field of interest you choose. But you're right. English is international language. I mean, there is no way around it. It's lingua franca of modern times. And I would be lying if I said that with gaining English and starting to learn, think, and study in English, that it has not opened bigger spaces for me and more resources. Because yes, I do have with English, I have access to so many more resources of learning. It's a great gain. Um, I understand not everybody is a linguist, but even so, it's like playing with your own language. I mean, if you are Czech speaking person and you don't want or cannot learn another language to a certain degree or to a fluent degree, okay, yeah, but you can start thinking in different ways. And I think the current times call for thinking in different ways. And when
Yeah.
you can start thinking in different language, again, it gives you different shapes to play with and different spaces to open up. Like we have to start literally if we want to survive a species in these important transitional times, we have to start thinking differently. Because the way we think differently, we experience differently, we approach things differently, and we behave differently. And the moment of evolution is now here.
You just brought to my mind an interesting idea that you're saying, thinking in different ways. Uh, Going abroad using different language really makes you to recalibrate uh, your perspective on so many things, because all of a sudden you look at so many things that you used to from a different perspective, even from that language, because that language have a different ways of approaching a certain situations, right? So, you know, easy example, I'm coming to Australia and everybody's saying like, hi, how are you? I go like, what the fuck? Like, they don't know me. Why they ask me how I am and stuff? It took me so long. It took me so long to get used to it. Really, I was like, I couldn't get over coming from Czech culture, where you're passing by people on the street, you don't know them, you're quiet, yeah. And all of a
Mhm.
sudden, everyone who's passing you by in Australia, they cheer you up, hey, how are you, whatever, and then. So it makes you recalibrate. Goes like, hey, maybe even the people that I don't know, I can just say, hello, how are you? Yeah, have a good day, whatever. And then it was so nice to get get that into my system and just be more open to people, more
Mm,
approachable to
mm.
people, and just if I remember throughout the time, I had because of that so many more conversations with people because the people are way more open just to talk to you, anywhere. Just, it doesn't matter that you don't know them, but to have a decent conversation or random conversation with someone in here that you don't know, it's not as common as in there.
Oh, I just love what you've said. I just love it. And that's a perfect example. I just love the word recalibration, by the way, because that's what we are all going through and we'll have to like make friends with recalibration and recalibration on daily basis, you know. And it's not easy, think the fact that you have to change perspective again. That's going to be a survival skill from now on daily basis, recalibration and survival skill. And the fact that yes, you recalibrated to being more open and actually connecting with other people on a different level, which is great. That's another way that we need, because there is lots of division in the world at the moment, lots of them and us. And when you step into this space of being more approachable, being more open and open to talking to complete strangers, you stop being a stranger in that place. You start being just another person in this space,
Mhm, mhm,
and you feel more at home in a humanity rather than nationality or culture. I found this beautiful. For example, okay, there in China, in their language and in their culture, they actually address each other brother, sister, uncle, auntie, grandma, and grandpa. Even like if you are a stranger, a kid comes to you, and in our age group, it will be you will be called uncle by the kid, and I will be called auntie, right?
yeah.
And I found
We
it
already aunt and
really,
uncle. No more
yeah,
brothers.
yeah, no, my big sis. I mean, like, once you're out of your teens and 20s,
Yeah,
you're
yeah,
uncle
yeah.
and auntie to the little kids, right? But we are not in grandma and grandpa space yet, so we're fine.
Few
But
more
I
years.
love that. Many more years to go. But I love that because you are a stranger when you come to that culture. But if a kid calls you auntie and uncle, you've made it. You know, you are part of a big family. You feel more at home in the world, right? Rather than in your small area, in your small culture. That's where the division starts. And then we see so much division. And when there is division, there is conflict. And when there is division and conflict, there's anger, there is hate, there is so much judgment. And that's not good for survival. That really is not. Some would say yes, but I would say no.
Mm. There was another thing that you mentioned. There was a culture. I remember the first week I'm in Australia. I need to visit my school because at the time I get there on student visa. So at the time I had to attend English language school. So I'm going to visit the school and I get off downtown, from the train, and then I get off the streets and then, look around and there's so many different kinds of people. All of a sudden, there wasn't being in a center here in Prague and seeing 99.9% of just Czech people, white people, yeah.
Both
But there was
Caucasian,
like,
yeah, yeah.
there was like, a black people and Asians, like so many Asians. I was like, wow, what's going on in here? And it really took me a while to get used to the fact that there's just such a multicultural a land where
Mm-hmm.
uh, where it makes you realize after the while where you live there that's another land where it's so normal that there's different cultures and different ethnicities that they're all foreigners in there. So
Yeah.
who is really who is really like when you're in Australia, who is really Aussie? Like who is really Aussie? Because even the original people who get there on the boats, I don't know, 18th centuries or whatever, 19th century, they
That
all were
wasn't the
from,
original ones. The
yeah,
Aborigines,
exactly,
and they
exactly,
came
exactly, exactly,
80,000 years ago
exactly,
as well.
exactly,
So,
exactly. So they're all foreigners. So at some point. when you're talking to people anywhere in the coffee shops on the street or whatever, there is something different in a way that we all come from somewhere. We all meet here, and I it made me realize that how the people respect each other in there, even though there's other issues, is like whole nother different level, whole nother different level. Obviously, you have more
Grassroots.
problematic cultures than the other, yeah, sort of like that. But I would say that the respect that people gives each other in communication, in the way how they treat each other, how they greet each other, and all that is just a whole nother level. Especially after being there for 13 years, coming back here to Czech, I'm just in shock, in shock.
I noticed that's I like thank you for this topic, and it might piss some people off, but it's all right. We are here to piss people off occasionally. Um, it's about reactivity. You know, if you react to something good, it's a good thing because doors are opening. So, multiculturalism, there is it's a like ugly word at the moment for many people, but Britain is this, like Australia is that, Britain is the same. Um, because of its past, you have got so many people of different nations, races, and ethnicities that it's the norm. Uh, okay, yes, there is racism, there are problems like everywhere, but even in monolithic culture, let's say, you know, white Caucasian, there are troubles because people don't always get on. But when you meet people of different ethnicities, races, and cultures on the human level, like one to one, you're stopping you're stepping out of that generalization of the other, you know, the other tribe, the weird people, the people that bring strange things that I'm not comfortable with or that are threatening to me. But in the cafes, you know, on the streets, you just like when you're traveling, you meet people and you talk to person. You're not looking, oh, you're from the culture, you're of that color of skin, you're of that ethnicity, but you're like, oh, you're a person that is traveling too, you're a person that is having a coffee, you're a person that wants to live good life, be safe, be happy, have your family safe, you know, you just want to enjoy life. And when you're meeting on this level, you're living in totally different world than when you are meeting on the level of, for example, uh, the typical traditional news at the moment. It's divisive. That person, those people are bad. Those people are good. This tribe is good. This tribe is bad, and you lose that one to one, like, or the small group. These are people. We are meeting on the humanity level rather than the divisive level. You that label, you that label. And in some ways, what's happening in the outside world and this divisiveness is happening to us within our own person. We are also like finding these divisions within ourselves. What this is good about me, this is bad about me. Here I'm good enough, and here I'm not good enough. But when you are meeting yourself on the level of the heart, on a different level, on the openness level, you're like, well, actually it's not that bad, you know, it's fine. I'm just accepting. As I'm accepting others, I'm accepting myself. As I'm accepting myself, I'm accepting of the others. So going out into the world, into the bigger world, and exposing yourself to different cultures, languages, and experiences makes your space of your life and of your experiencing opening up more rather than shriveling down to, oh, here is my safety and this is where I'm going to stronghold myself, even if I can't breathe there. That's the same dynamic about staying in your comfort zone and going out of your comfort zone so you
Mm,
can actually,
mm, mm.
you know, live in a bigger space and feel comfortable and safe there rather than you see it with old people. Lots of old people are growing in like in the way that their world is slowly shrinking to their town, then to their house, then to a few rooms, and for some it's then just one room, right? And as their world is shrinking around them and their interactions with other people, outside people, are shrinking, the more the world outside is becoming scary, big world. the less they want to go out, the more they want to stay in their small comfort zone. We all have that dynamics within ourselves. So it's like, yeah, if I go out into the world and like you describe your experiences, I am growing, I'm blossoming, I am opening up doors, I'm meeting peoples and their stories and they enrich me. That's where the wealth is.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. You know, you actually you remind me that of something that I'm slowly forgetting in here very quickly. That yeah, when you're abroad, it really makes you open your heart because of that new language, because of that new culture, because of that new land. You sort of open your heart because you sort of have to, and you open your heart because that's what the new land, the new opportunities inviting you to as well. I remember so many stories of people that I met from all over the world in there. You know, like because of Australia, I met so many people from France and Germany and Britain and whole Asia, Arabic world, and funny story was that I remember one of the first days I'm in that English language school at the beginning of the time that I was in Australia. I met a guy, and he fucking looked so Asian. He was so Asian, and I'm asking him like, "Oh, where you from?" And he said, "Well, I'm from Czech Republic. I'm from Prague." I'm looking at him. I said, "Like what? Like
Ah,
where you from?" And he said, "Well, I'm from Prague." Well, then I'm starting to talk to him in Czech. And he's replying back to me in Czech, but he bloody talks like Prague dialect. I go like, this is incredible. So it
you are from
really,
Prague.
yeah, yeah. He was really from Prague. He grew up in Prague. I think he was Korean. I think he was originally Korean, but he was born in Prague. He grew up in Prague, and he was traveling the world playing as a player in casinos. Right? He was doing really, really well.
Cool.
And by the way, he was, in the English school because in Australia, especially at the time when I get there, in order to stay in Australia, you either were a traveler with a um, what's it called, with a traveling visa, which you can get
Ah,
for
yeah.
like a
Tourist
three
visa, yeah.
months tourist visa, yeah, or you're a student, right? That was the only two options. So
Mhm.
when you were in student visa, you can, yeah, I think you can stay as long as you're studying. You can stay because that's the way how it's a big money flooding to Australia that way. But it was just interesting to see someone who is from overseas, but he's actually Czech as I am, and yeah, more and more people I met there, more I'm meeting different cultures, and more you see the quality of the cultures as well. Like there's a certain quality of Arabic world. There's a certain quality of Asian cultures. There's a certain quality of Europeans. There's certain quality definitely in us Czechs. It was incredible to see what a reputation Czech people have in 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 Australia. Really, like we really hardworking people, and it was interesting that whoever comes from Czech, most of the people growing really fast. They're learning really fast. They're really hardworking, and they're really good working reputation in that.
So it's nice to see actually ourselves from outside as well. It's like individually as well. When you're working with your client, you're like able to give your client that listen. This is how you actually look. You're looking from inside, from your different settings and aspects. So you don't have this whole overview, but I can actually tell you this is how you come across, and it's brilliant to see it because yeah, we in Czech, like it's funny seeing the different culture, nationalities, and races when you are finally like meeting individual people and then the whole groups. You are starting to realize that it's there is a certain type of mirroring. It's like you have as an individual person, you have your history, you have your family, uh, you have your family lineage and all those stories that are kind of making you who you are and what you are struggling with and what are your skills and talents and gifts. And it's the same with nationalities and cultures because you can see their whole history mirroring in the individual people and how they think, how they approach things. So like every individual person has got the light and the shadow, the gifts and the things that they need to work with, the challenges. Like every culture, you can start seeing that every culture and every nationality has the same. It's like, yeah, these, because of, if you look at, I don't know, the history of Australia or the history of Britain or China or Japan, you can see the family constellations that we see in individual people. It's like, oh, you know, they did this and they experienced that, and it mirrors in the whole national kind of way of thinking, you know. And we have the same because we had, like we always say, 40 years under totality, and the two world wars, and we have been run over. That now I talk about Czech. We have been taken over by the nations around. So there are some shadows and some traumas that all the Czech people will have somewhere within us, you know, as a programming. So it's like our own individual programming, our family programming, family constellations, the nation we are born into, the land we are born into. It's amazing when you start seeing it mirroring in other people, then you can see it in yourself. It's like, ah, yeah, this is the chick thing I have to actually struggle with, you know? This the national thing that's come from the whole constellation of the history we have been through. And these are the strong things from that came out of it, and these are the shadows that came out of it. Like on one hand, because of some of the history, Czechs are kind of feeling the trauma of being disempowered as a nation, and that's a shadow. But on the other hand, because of a certain type of disempowerment, we had to find ways around it. We have to become more creative
Hmm.
and things like
Hmm.
that. It's just
Hmm.
interesting looking at it from these
Golden check
levels. And these
hands.
layers are part of our, yeah, exactly.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
As it's
Yeah.
all part of us.
It is true. It is true. Like, I mean, it's a bit of shame that the whole Czech nation doesn't really see it, because I feel after being so long abroad, by coming back, I realized that like there's such a strong culture of comparison, you know,
Mm.
and I feel that especially the Eastern world is way more feminine, especially Australia. I found it's feminine land. People address their free time, what they love to do. Uh, they really value the time that they have for surfing, for example. It's nice to see the ocean behind you. Like the culture, the surfing culture that is so strong, so strong. You see an old man, 60, even 70 years old man who just, surfing every time they can. So they really value the time they have for things that they love. They really value the time that they have to be outside, to go walking, to meet friends, to do stuff. So w- at the beginning, I was like judging, like, they not as structured and this and that. We really um, we really want to step the ladder and really make the career, worthwhile and stuff like that. But then by coming back here, I realized that the whole Europe feels way more masculine, especially here in Czech. It's way more about what car am I driving, what position I am, what is my salary, how much money I have, and all that. And obviously, I put the value of me based on the comparison what I have and what I don't. And I
Yeah.
find that spending too much time in that space, uh, creating a whole nation that has that have way more wealth that they can even imagine, because there's so many people who actually living in their own house, or their own flat, they're not renting. Maybe they have a mortgage, but they still have a wealth of something way more than the average person in the whole world, but they just don't see it because they still comparing themselves with the few millionaires or billionaires living in the country, thinking like they don't have enough. And that this is something that I find something that it reminding me of how I want to really not have it like that, and really see the
Hmm.
values
Yeah.
in having enough, in having time to do stuff I love, to address my health, to have enough time to rest, and to actually really asking myself what the real values in life are, and
Mm.
how much money do I really need, and how much money is just excess. Obviously, I have dreams about, having my dream cottage and this and that, and maybe at the moment I don't have enough to buy it, but at the same time, having that 13 years in Australia really made me open my eyes in terms of um, uh, when we have enough, when we have a roof over our head, when we have something to eat, and when we have like a couple $1,000s in our savings account, we far better off than majority of population around the world. And I think so many people here don't realize it. You know, the the culture in here is so rich in some sense. Like the public transport, like wow. Like in Australia, somewhere on like in a sensor is somewhere in the neighborhoods, and oh my God, like there's a one bus an hour. Sometimes it comes on time, sometimes it comes 20 minutes later, sometimes doesn't come at all. And here everything like running, on time and on schedule. You can take a tram and it goes you from one place to another, buses and tubes and all that. So it's really a good reminder for people who never travel abroad to realize how much wealth actually is in here and how many things are really working really well.
That's true. That's the focus. Oh gosh, yes, this is such a juicy tool. Yeah, it's what you focus on, which is that everyone in self-development knows this one, right? What are you focused on? What you don't have, or how much you don't have on the scarcity.
Mhm, mhm,
And it's illusory scarcity because I like what you said. Um, it's about values, what your values are, what you really need, not what the system is telling you that you need. Because if it's the system outside that is controlling you, if it's the conditioning, the programming that is controlling you and telling you you don't have enough, so you are not enough, um, then that's trouble. But that's how we control masses. Let's face it. I'm not a theorist, but it's just how it is. That's the dynamics of things. When you know your own values and you are not subscribing to the values you were given from outside, what you should want, but what you really need, you might find out that you have got everything you do need. Because if you are chasing some illusory or values, if you're chasing something that the outside system is telling you should, then you are spending your lifeblood, your time here on this planet, in this form, on something illusory that you will never actually get. Or if you get it, you find out it's not what it was described to be because you don't feel the satisfaction, you don't feel the nourishment of it, you don't feel you're fully alive, you're yourself in that wholeness of yourself. It's
mm.
like, so I'm chasing this retirement or this condo or this car or
Yeah.
this and then you get there and you are burned out, disillusioned, and you find that you were giving your life time of your life, your lifeblood, your life force for so many years for something that it doesn't bring you what you thought would, or what the system was telling you it would, because it looked nice on the photos, right? The description looked good because it was all sparkly, and then you get there empty, burned, and totally lost to yourself, and then you go back this arduous journey back to yourself, finding back, putting these pieces back together, and finding yourself. Who am I? Like I knew somewhere back when I was a kid who I am and what really makes me feel fully alive. And it may not be the Mercedes. For someone, it could be, for someone it could be. But for majority of people it is not, because it's a status thing, as you said. Where was the last time when you sat uh somewhere on your ass with a cup of tea or coffee because you like it, not because it looks good on the selfie,
Mm.
and you just like, you know, looked up and the sun was nice on your face and you just felt that, oh, I am fully alive and I don't need to chase anything. I don't need to be anyone. I am already what I need to be, and all is good. And there is a this deep feeling of well-being. Like, yeah, I don't need. I have everything right now, right here in this cup of tea with the sun for this moment. How like, oh my God, that's precious. No amount of more cities is and condos or expensive holidays can give you that.
That had real depth, what you just said. That had real depth. I love how you mentioned that chasing a retirement, it was something similar got me in Australia. To my biggest surprise, the biggest depression for me in Australia came after I gained citizenship. It was the ultimate goal, I spent 10 years working my ass off. I mean, like working my ass off to get there. Big, so now I have two passports. Yeah, I can, so I'm half Australian, half Czech now. I can come there anytime. Yet, bloody hell, now I'm nearly 2 years in Czech. Um, but I remember what was the big wake up call in there, that after I got the Australian uh, citizenship, it was massive achievement. Absolutely, absolutely, and I'm so grateful, so grateful. It was so worth, you know, the hard work. And yet, at the same time, nothing really changed. I was like waiting, oh, once I'm gonna get it, like I'm gonna be this and that. But what I didn't realize, and what got me at the time, was that I was so tired, so bloody
Mhm.
tired of that 10 years that I spent hard working to get there, that I really needed to take a big chunk of time off to really start breathing again, to really connect with what I want to do, what I'm gonna do, because I was so used to already doing that I saw myself doing that. So I don't want to continue doing that, but what am I gonna do now? Like who am I now?
Yeah.
So and after some years, I felt I want to visit home. So I got here just for holiday, and there was a bit of a problem in my family, and I just overstaying, 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 and I'm now already 2 years in here, and I'm thinking like, um, it really made me realize that the time is now, and if you like, the message is that. And that's why I do what I do through the human design. I keep reminding people that, the time is now. The time is now to do the stuff that you love. Because after
Mhm.
after you get the house, after you get the car, after you get the residency or whatever you're chasing, uh, the life won't change. You're still gonna keep asking the same questions like, who am I? Do I love what I'm doing? Do I love the way how I'm spending my time? Can I actually enjoy, the cup of tea and just really feeling like this is enough? And it was a big wake up call for me to realize that it took me a long time to get to appreciate those basic things after that, because in my mind, I thought that something miracles will happen, but it didn't. But it didn't. It more opened the new world to me of the new possibilities where I just didn't know what to do because I was slave for so long that all of a sudden, the chain went out, but I didn't know what to do with the freedom.
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh, this is. Oh. This is so perfect. It's so juicy. That's it. I just read, I don't know where someone was writing about enlightenment. It's like the enlightenment figures, the gurus that reach enlightenment. If they, how did it look like? But there was like all of a sudden the emptiness, and it's with the big achievements. They do bring you something. They usually bring you the most important thing that they bring you is that you get from the hard work is that they open up possibilities usually.
Mhm, mhm,
In what form? It's just there is a great diversity in what form. It could be a burnout that's open a new possibility or possibilities because you get insights, you get experience, you get the possibilities there. Something you can start doing differently, or you reach certain level of understanding, certain level of recalibration. But the ingredient that we all know is missing when we reach the freedom, when we reach the goal, is was there a joy? Was there joy? The joy brings you aliveness. Like the are you present with yourself? Are you present with your life? Are you present within your life? Are you present within your own being? And is there a joy? And that's the ingredients that I I so understand what you're saying because I just spent so many years working really hard at whatever called me, and be it a career or study or martial arts or whatever. But whenever I reached the next stage, the recalibration stage, and got into the in between, there was always that, okay, who are you now and where is the joy? At the end of this emptiness was always, is there joy? Are you feeling alive? Or are you just existing? And that's the biggest question. Not what you achieve, but are you actually happy being alive? And what makes you happy? Is it the big achievements? Well, at the end, you're just celebrating and it's gone. It's gone
mhm,
like this, but that depth of well-being and joy from just being alive, is the current there still somewhere within you or not? Are you enjoying the small moments of everyday life? There was this moment in China in the temple where Shifu was working really hard, and then he did the I Ching, the book of changes for us, and said, "Okay, whatever I Ching will tell you, that you will just put it on a like a small thing here, and you will carry it on your third eye, and you will be focusing on that because that's what life is telling you."
mhm,
And there were some really nice, big, grand things for other people, and for me, there was preponderance of small things. And my conditioning was like, oh, what? I wanted something grand too. Why is it? And then it just like hit me. And from that point onwards, for the many years afterwards, it really served me well because I'm like, yeah, small things. If the description was small everyday things, and if you are flying too high to the sun, your wings would get burned.
mhm,
That's
mhm,
perfect symbolism
mhm,
because yes, I mean, if I cannot live my life and I'm working really hard for some goal ahead in the future, for when I'm retired, for example, I'll put everything for that, and I put my life, my living fully and joyfully aside for that one goal. It might never happen. I mean,
mhm,
like, I may be run over by a car tomorrow, or, it's like you can't guarantee. If you are postponing your life, like really living and living with joy and juiciness for later when you achieve something, or when the time when you get this and when you get that, it's not gonna happen. And if it's gonna happen, then you will be very disappointed because it's not what you thought it will be. And then you look back over the years when you were like postponing your life, your true living, and you will be like, I wasted all this time. I haven't enjoyed it. I just worked so hard and for getting this. But where is the joy in it? The working harder should be balanced out by the joy.
Look, I couldn't agree more. I couldn't agree more because in some way, I'm still getting over the the hard work that I put. into staying in Australia. Every time I mention here in Czech that I have Australian citizenship, that I come back in here. Everyone in here asking me, like, what are you doing here? What are you doing here? Why are you not there?
America.
No one ever asked me. No one ever asked me once, how was your journey? Was you like happy there? Like how was the work? Like everybody just see, the ocean and the good life. And oh my God, I had amazing life in there. Like I can't say a bad word. But at only background was that, the mind still chasing something. I
Mm.
used to be a private bank in here. I was chasing something and I still had that mindset in there. I was just chasing something else. So what I find the greatest value in what I'm doing now is that I can realize how much do I actually need, what I actually need, and whatever is excess. Well, it's cool to have it, but not for exchange of like me putting aside like several years of my life just to have something. And I have amazing mentor, coach, and friend, Istvan, and his wife Mishka is my great friend. But this guy he's Hungarian. He's boxing coach. He
Oh,
We
cool.
used to play tennis together. He's an amazing mentor. Like the guy is amazing. And he's in 60s now. He looks 40, I still till today I haven't beat him in tennis, It just he either beat me or we play square. He's just that amazing. And what is amazing about the guy that, they still living life. They go maybe 1 or 2 times a week for a dinner. They go for walks. He plays tennis. He does his boxing. They live life. And when you meet people like that, you can't lie with that energy that they have, inside of them. That vibrancy of the life
Mm.
they have inside. And he always was reminding me, like, Robert, it's all about the lifestyle. Choose the
Mm.
way how you want to live, choose the things that you love doing, and just um, build the right life around that, not the other way around. Yeah. And I just find that it's such an incredible um, wisdom, to really embody, to really realize what I actually need in my, dream life in terms of what I love doing, and then build a life around that. Because there's many people of us that they don't need that much. Till today, I remember that the happiest memory of my childhood was when I was playing in the uh, when I'm playing with my father when he was in his workshop. He used to be a carpenter, right? And all I'm remembering is whistling and singing songs and doing amazing work. I never ever as a child remembering him complaining about work or anything. He was just loving what he's doing. People loved his work, and that's how I remember him. The time of the trouble came when he was striving for more, and he gave up what he used to do the business. Yeah, at the time he was making more money and we could buy more things. But that vibrancy of that
Mm.
aura that he had at the time was gone. And after several years, it impacted our family, and they were going great in business. We had more money, but at the same time, the relationships weren't as good, and we weren't spending time together. So, uh, in that sense, that really opened a new perspective for me
Mm.
abroad and in the world to see that there's a different way of living. And, when you embody a little bit of minimalism and a little bit of different values and a little bit of wisdom, in that sense, you can live a whole nother different life. And even you have children and you have, age of 40s or 50s, you can still have plenty of time to do your hobbies, meet friends and do plenty of things that keeps your spirit alive.
Ah, now you said it. That's perfect. That's it. That's what it is about. Keep your spirit alive. And for everyone, it's different things. It's different mixture of things. And it's not there is no blueprint for everyone to fit. What works for someone does not work for someone else. And it is again, we go back to knowing yourself, and getting to know yourself, and basically excavating your essence, who you are truly, under all that conditioning and the layers that we accept and that we are given, and so on. And just like really going inside, it's like, what makes me feel alive? And as you said, you don't need to have that many things, things are just things. They don't necessarily bring happiness. I was thinking about it a lot when I was feeling low and tired, and my spirit felt like a wild wolf being caged, slowly dying from within. And I was like, well, I've got everything. I have got all the basic things more than most of the world. Because the most of the world is not Europe or America, or certain part of America where we have all our basic needs met, more or less. And I was thinking about it, like, what is standing between me and the happiness that I also am capable of really truly experiencing? What is the difference between this state and that state? And it was the layers. There was the layers of conditioning, the programming, and there was that. And between that was my decision. I'm like, okay, I wake up in the morning and I can't sleep properly. I wake up in the morning really tired, and I find it really hard to face the world, and I'm so grumpy, and I feel like I need something. And then I'm just thinking, what if I just made the decision that to say thank you that I am alive, I am in a warm bed, there is no war being waged all around me. Bloody hell, I am actually doing pretty well. Thank you that I can. So let's see where I can find the happiness. Sometimes I do need to dig deep, and sometimes it just comes by itself. But the more I focus on the happiness, the aliveness, the happiness of being alive and grateful for it, the more automatic it is, the more to the surface it is, the more accessible it is. So it is about training myself, focusing on that. And it's the little things every day. It is like the big happiness is made of little happiness, of little things every day, the preponderance of little things. They are the most important rather than chasing the big ones. Though it's not either or, we can be chasing things, but the important ingredients to bring in is balancing it out with, while we are chasing those, we also allow the happiness and juiciness and aliveness.
Mm,
So
mm,
we step again, and we are back nicely to what we started with, thinking differently, having different perspective. It doesn't have to be neither nor, this or that, black and white. It doesn't have to be up or down, left or right. It could be upside down, sideways, inside out. It could be black and white together or totally different shade. Is And we have control over that.
it's huge for me. I'm so grateful that we actually agreed on doing this because it's bringing me to all those times that I had big aha moments back in Australia exactly about those topics. And to be quite frankly honest, by being here nearly for 1.5 years, I'm coming back to some of my previous traumas, which was linked to, money and the self-worth linked to how much I have and all that. And I'm still there was part of me that I left in here and I get to Australia because I couldn't deal with it.
Mhm.
And by me spending more time in here, I'm sort of realizing that there was There was a part of me that I left and that haven't dealt with. So now I'm dealing with some of the trauma that I left in here, and I'm dealing with it through some, therapy and things, and applying all that I learn away in here. And
You
that,
bring in the
well,
medicine from Australia
well,
into.
by the time I get here nearly 2 years ago, I felt fucking enlightenment. I felt like enlightened, really. I had like, I had a sun around me. It was amazing. But the more I spend the time in here, the more I'm like sort of, getting into that culture and the way of thinking and stuff like that. And to keep that mindset, to keep being that sunshine that I was more in there, it's a whole nother spiritual practice. And
Mm.
when I'm honest with myself, um, not every day is a rainbow and sunshine, and there was some significant times that I went through here that I was struggling. I was really struggling. I went back to that original mindset, you piece of shit, you don't have a house, look at you, you're 43, what did you achieve? Like, yeah, you were in world, but like what you have and all that. But, you know, while we talking, and I'm remembering some of those moments, that I used to live there for quite a long time. It's yeah, it made me realize that the reason why I'm here is to embody that type of lifestyle inside of me. So anywhere I go, whether I'm in England, whether I'm in Czech, whether I'm in China, whether I'm in Australia, that I kept those values inside, despite the difference in the culture. So in some way, it's a way harder to live in here, to embody that in here, but maybe that's why I'm here, because there's nothing, there's no one, there's no excuse for culture, for not having enough sun or whatever to embody those qualities and those values by uh, everyday life, and by keep reminding that, oh, I love this coffee, I love the tea, we just had a beautiful chat, about good things. Like, just really see the magic in everything and the little things, because as you mentioned, to see the miracles in those little things, that's the magic. That's the magic.
That's the
A lot
magic.
of
But
people who
that's
achieve a big things, a lot of people who achieve a big things, not all of them, but many of them, they lost the contact with the everyday little things. And when they lost the contact with the little things, they lost the contact with the true life. And
and
usually
that is
affect
amen.
big time they crucial relationships, and and most importantly, the critical relationships with themselves.
They lost themselves. That's it. The spark has gone out, and then so it's just you're bringing the medicine back in, where you are. And I love what you said. It doesn't matter on the context. In some ways, someone said somewhere, and I don't know where, but it really like rang a bell. And now that what you said, I was like, you are the glitch in the matrix. You are needed where you are. You are just bringing, the new forms, the new experiences, the new energy into the old or into the status quo wherever, and you're bringing something new, and just keep it fresh, keep it going. And it's not always easy. Of course, it is not always easy. There will be days when it's almost impossible, but is you don't give up because of some days, or sometimes it's so hard or almost impossible at that moment. You just keep going. You keep reminding yourself what is alive within you and what makes you alive. And then you shine the light and the brightness around you. And that's what you are giving to the shared field and to everyone around you. And that's all we can do. And it's what all we should do, you know?
I'll be careful with that shoot, but I
Okay, never shit on yourself, right?
But I would love that. Like from the bottom of my heart, I would be something that, if I'm capable to embody that most of the time, not for the world, but bloody for myself, because it's something that, I used to live it for so many years, and I know how it tastes, that that's the kind of the inspiration that I want to spread to the world anywhere I go. Because through my human design reading, especially here in Czech Republic, I see that there's just so many people who exchange their time, their energy, their fucking soul for a work that it's meaningless. They don't love what they're doing. The joy, the spirit. I find that the spiritual, I find that we looking for the spiritual world in wrong places. We think that it's something so complicated, something really far away from us. But how about we just see the spiritual practice in just embodying the joy inside of us, by embodying, living life that it's worth living, by embodying that, whatever I'm doing, I do it with enthusiasm, with love, and I'm spreading a good energy. Whether it's a carpentry, or whether it's doing podcasts, or whatever, it doesn't matter. But as long as I'm in the right place and the energy shines through me, I'm actually a healer. You can be a chef and be a healer. You can, it doesn't matter as long as the joy is shining out of you.
Yeah, the
I
external
find.
form, it doesn't matter. Absolutely. Amen.
I
So,
really, I really hope that whatever we're doing now and whatever we maybe do in the future would lead to inspire people to, ask important questions about life, and about whether I'm putting my energy into something that, I actually love. It has a real meaning for me, and not the chasing butterflies somewhere along the, long distance in the future that may happen, may not. But addressing that life now, because, who knows, maybe tomorrow we won't be here. So
tomorrow is not guaranteed, no matter how
exactly,
much we would like to. Yes, let's
exactly.
live now, think later. And I would like to add to this, yes. Let's not chase answers first. Let's just give ourselves space to ask ourselves the important questions and allow the juiciness of life in, and allow the space. You said it last time. Allow the space for yourself. There is peacefulness, there is space within, and that brings the joy. It's a quiet joy. It's a very gentle. Maybe that's why, because everything is so overwhelming around and within, because there is just so much noise inside and
Mm, mm,
outside,
mm,
so much of the overwhelming big things that it's kind of overlays, and the gentle, subtle things, and it's the gentle, subtle things inside. But that gentle, subtle joy, not the expansive, like extreme joy of adrenaline rush. It's that gentle little thing that gives you peacefulness, where your heart is settled, your body is settled, and there's just something that shines out of your eyes at that moment.
how about both of us towards the end? We'll ask the important question. Yeah. What would be your question to ask yourself, and the spectrum? What would be the question to ask? Just
Oh,
one.
that's a difficult one. Where is my peace?
Okay.
Where is my peace?
Something
Peacefulness.
coming to me is that, like, ask myself, what is success to me?
Mm, mm.
There could be millions of more.
Oh, yeah, we could throw so many more in.
Mm,
What are my values? What are my needs?
mm.
Yeah. Well, let's conclude with this, and I am looking forward to more chats like this. And you see, that's what we were saying in the bit last time that we did not, or I did not record, and I was that there is different energy when we started to speak in English. and different things come through.
Well, today didn't really have, I would say, like a concrete topic. It was just kind of like just a chat, but it was a great reminder of many things. Like when we were starting, as you know, my energy wasn't at my best, but at the same time, after 1 hour, remembering English, remembering the values, going through, this topic, I just think that it's so important to keep spreading to the world those kind of messages. I think behind all that there's a different vibrancy, there's a different energy that is, recalibrating the whole consciousness of, you know Czech Republic, maybe the whole Europe, maybe the whole world. And true fact being told, with English we can reach, way more people. Actually, in some time, I can keep sending, some of the podcasts even to my English speaking friends, all over the world, or back in Australia. And I think it would be really lovely. So thank you really
So
for
we
that. Have you
opened up
got
a new
opinions?
doors.
Mm, mm.
Thank you so much. Well, thank you for that. Awesome sparring partner. I'm glad we decided to do the English one, and I'll be looking forward to many more, hopefully,
Same
in
here,
Czech
same here.
and
I
in
love it.
English.
We already did like
Me
quite
too.
a few. It was like, I don't know, it's a fifth of us. We did maybe five all together already.
Yeah, I think it's a 4 or 5. Yeah. Well, with this one, yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So we'll continue. Thank you, brother.
Thank you. Thank you.